The Hidden Secrets of Hermes. A Journey into the Depths of an Ancient Faith. Copyright NLP Radio. Introduction. A Journey into the World of Hermes Trismegistus. Imagine yourself walking under the moonlight, passing through the gates of an ancient temple in the dead of night. The shadows of ancient trees and mysterious shapes surround your path, and the cool night air carries the scent of history and secrets. This is a place where ancient gods and philosophers, including Hermes Trismegistus, lived and passed down their deep and enigmatic teachings to future generations. Have you ever wondered what secrets lie behind these teachings? What force allowed the teachings of Hermeticism, this ancient and complex faith, to endure for centuries? These questions, as mysterious as they are, also carry their own magic. This book takes you on a journey beyond the boundaries of time and space, where the thoughts and beliefs of Hermeticism shape your understanding of life in new ways. From the formation of this ancient faith in antiquity and its influence on various cultures to its followers in the modern world, everything will be explored deeply and engagingly in this book. Are you ready to enter the mysterious world of Hermes Trismegistus? Do you want to understand how the teachings of Hermeticism have evolved throughout history and where they stand today? Do you want to discover how this ancient faith has influenced various religious and philosophical beliefs? In this book, each chapter will introduce you to a new world and lead your questions to surprising and mysterious answers. Join us as we delve into the depths of these teachings and embark on this thrilling and enigmatic journey, bringing you to a deeper understanding of the world of Hermeticism. Chapter 1. What is Hermeticism? Amidst the thin veils of history and philosophy, Hermeticism is recognized as one of the most mysterious and captivating spiritual and intellectual systems. But what exactly is this tradition, known as Hermeticism or Hermes Trismegistus? What concepts and principles are hidden behind this name, and how can these principles contribute to a deeper understanding of the world and our existence? Imagine being in the ancient worlds of Greece and Egypt, where the darkness and light of historical legends intertwine, and a novel yet ancient idea emerges. This idea, a philosophical and spiritual system, refers to universal connections and the fundamental principles of existence. Hermeticism is attributed to the teachings of Hermes Trismegistus, a mythical figure considered a blend of Greek and Egyptian gods. But why have these teachings gained such significance and allure? In Hermeticism, the universe is viewed as a living and harmonious entity, where each part is deeply connected to others. These teachings emphasize that to better understand the world, one must pay attention to the inner connections and universal changes. In other words, Hermeticism seeks to demonstrate how principles such as unity, harmony, and change operate at all levels of existence, and how they influence our understanding of life and the cosmos. A fundamental principle of Hermeticism is that everything in the universe is interconnected, and nothing exists in isolation. This belief challenges the common perception of the world, where we usually divide it into separate parts, while Hermeticism seeks the hidden links and connections between these parts. This perspective might raise questions in your mind. How can these connections be identified? What principles and methods exist to better understand these connections? Hermeticism not only analyzes global relationships but also delves into profound spiritual and philosophical research that helps individuals gain a better understanding of themselves and their position in the world. These teachings specifically explore and analyze the mysteries of existence, natural principles, and cosmic laws, aiming to shed new light on humanity's understanding of existence and the world in which we live. Does this mean that Hermeticism is merely a theoretical and intellectual philosophy? Or can it serve as a practical guide for life and a better understanding of the world? As we continue in this chapter, we will delve into the depths of these teachings and strive to fully comprehend the role Hermeticism has played in ancient and modern philosophy and spirituality, and how it can contribute to a deeper understanding of life and the world. Thus, our journey into the world of Hermeticism begins, where answering these questions and discovering its profound principles is just part of the adventure. Each step on this path will bring you closer to a better understanding of this ancient and complex tradition, and help you plant the seeds of knowledge that may profoundly impact your worldview. Chapter 2: The History of Hermeticism. To gain a deeper understanding of Hermeticism, we must travel into the depths of history and return to the ancient eras where the concepts and principles of this tradition were formed. The ideas and teachings of Hermeticism are rooted in the complex and fascinating periods of ancient history and culture, where different cultures merged, leading to new cultural and philosophical interactions. Hermeticism, with deep roots in the Hellenistic period and the Golden Age of ancient Egypt, was significantly influenced by these eras. The Hellenistic period, beginning with the conquest of the Macedonian Empire by Alexander the Great and extending to the early Roman period, was a time when Greek and Eastern cultures merged significantly, paving the way for the emergence of many new philosophies and teachings. During this period, Hermeticists and other philosophers developed new philosophical and spiritual teachings that shaped Hermeticism. One of the most important sources for understanding the teachings of Hermeticism is the Hermetic books, a collection of ancient texts. These texts, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, contain deep philosophical and spiritual principles that help better understand the world and existence. These books specifically address issues such as unity, harmony, and reciprocal influences in the world, forming the foundation of many Hermetic beliefs. In addition to the Hermetic books, Kabbalistic texts also played a significant role in shaping and interpreting Hermetic teachings. Kabbalism, known as an ancient Jewish tradition, was especially influential in philosophical and spiritual areas, particularly during the Middle Ages. These texts specifically analyze and interpret cosmic and divine principles, forming part of the philosophical foundation of Hermeticism. However, the history of Hermeticism does not end here. Throughout history, this tradition has been influenced by various philosophies and other spiritual and religious movements. During the Renaissance, when attention to ancient texts and previous philosophies was revived, Hermetic teachings also gained special attention and deeply influenced new philosophies and spiritual movements. As it passed through different eras and cultural influences, Hermeticism not only remained as an ancient philosophical system but also continuously evolved and adapted to new conditions and modern concepts. This tradition, initially formed in ancient times, is still recognized as a source of inspiration and thought for philosophers, spiritualists, and those interested in ancient philosophies in the modern world. Have these influences and transformations led to fundamental changes in the principles and teachings of Hermeticism? And has this tradition managed to adapt to historical and cultural changes and significantly impact modern philosophy and spirituality? The answers to these questions will take us deeper into the history and evolution of this tradition and help us better understand its influence over time. Chapter 3: Formation and Development Throughout History. To understand the formation and progression of Hermeticism, we must journey through various historical periods and examine the cultural and philosophical changes that have influenced this tradition. In this chapter, we will explore the evolution of Hermeticism from ancient times to the modern era, investigating how these teachings have developed and transformed over time. During the Hellenistic period, which spanned from the 4th century BC to the 1st century CE, the world witnessed the merging of different cultures and philosophies. The conquests of Alexander the Great and the expansion of Greek empires connected Greek and Eastern cultures, paving the way for cultural and philosophical exchanges. During this era, Hermetic teachings were particularly influenced by Greek and Egyptian philosophies. Ancient Egyptian culture, with its rich history of religious and philosophical beliefs, and Greek philosophy, with its emphasis on logical and philosophical analysis, both contributed to the formation and development of Hermetic principles. One of the fundamental principles of Hermeticism during this period was the concept of unity, which referred to the deep and continuous connection between all elements of the universe. This concept was especially influenced by Greek and Egyptian philosophies and gradually became one of the foundational principles of Hermeticism. During this era, Hermetic teachings were widely studied in various philosophical and religious texts and were recognized as an important source of thought and analysis. As time passed and the Renaissance period emerged, spanning from the 14th to the 17th centuries, there was a renewed interest in ancient texts and previous philosophies. This period, particularly noted for its emphasis on the revival of science and art and attention to ancient concepts, saw a resurgence of interest in Hermetic teachings. Renaissance philosophers and thinkers such as Niccolò Machiavelli, Pico della Mirandola, and John Dalton particularly studied and analyzed Hermetic teachings, examining them as a source for a deeper understanding of modern philosophy and spirituality. Was this revival and attention to Hermeticism during the Renaissance merely limited to revisiting ancient texts, or did this tradition truly transform into a new philosophical and spiritual movement? Answering these questions requires a closer examination of the influence of Hermeticism in the modern era and an analysis of the role these teachings played in the formation of new philosophies. In contemporary times, Hermeticism continues to be recognized as a significant and influential philosophical and spiritual tradition. This tradition, in response to new cultural and philosophical developments, has continually evolved and adapted to new conditions and concepts. By examining the historical development and progression of Hermeticism, we can gain a better understanding of how these teachings have influenced modern thought and spirituality, and analyze their role in today's world. Has Hermeticism successfully adapted to new cultural and philosophical changes and effectively influenced modern philosophy and spirituality? This question will lead us to a deeper examination of the influence of Hermeticism in contemporary times and its role in understanding and addressing new philosophical and spiritual issues. Chapter 4: Followers and the Community of Hermeticism. As a complex philosophical and spiritual system, Hermeticism has always attracted a group of followers and enthusiasts. These followers, with their unique philosophical and spiritual backgrounds, seek a deeper understanding of the world and the fundamental principles of Hermeticism. To better explore this topic, we need to analyze the characteristics of Hermeticism's followers and its impact on various societies from ancient times to the modern world. In ancient times, the followers of Hermeticism included a group of philosophers and clergy who studied and analyzed its principles. In ancient Egypt and the Hellenistic period, these followers were particularly present among scholars and philosophers. They emphasized concepts such as unity, harmony, and cosmic changes, striving to gain a deeper understanding of universal connections and natural principles. These teachings, particularly among ancient clergy and philosophers, were regarded as the foundation of philosophical thought and analysis. As the Renaissance period emerged, particularly noted for the revival of science and art and ancient concepts, Hermeticism's followers also began to appear among the philosophers and thinkers of this era. Philosophers such as Niccolò Machiavelli and Pico della Mirandola particularly studied and analyzed Hermetic teachings, attempting to use them as a source for a deeper understanding of the world and existence. The revival of Hermetic teachings during the Renaissance was especially influential in the analysis of new philosophical and spiritual concepts, and was recognized as an important philosophical and spiritual movement. In modern times, the followers of Hermeticism continue to be recognized as a group of enthusiasts in philosophy and spirituality. These individuals, responding to new cultural and philosophical developments, continually analyze and study Hermetic teachings. With its emphasis on principles such as unity and harmony in the universe, Hermetic teachings help these individuals gain a better understanding of cosmic connections and natural principles. In various contemporary societies, followers of Hermeticism are particularly present among philosophers, researchers, and clergy. These individuals emphasize the analysis of Hermetic philosophical and spiritual principles, striving to gain a deeper understanding of the world and existence. Hermetic teachings, with their emphasis on concepts such as cosmic changes and universal connections, continue to influence the analysis of new philosophical and spiritual issues. Have the followers of Hermeticism in the modern world successfully adapted to new cultural and philosophical changes and effectively influenced contemporary philosophy and spirituality? This question will lead us to a deeper examination of the impact of Hermeticism in modern times and its role in understanding new philosophical and spiritual issues. In this way, Analyzing the characteristics and impact of Hermeticism's followers in different societies will help us understand the role of these teachings in shaping new thoughts and their influence on the modern world, and provide a deeper analysis of this ancient and complex tradition. Chapter 5. Beliefs about God, Religion, and the Afterlife. Hermeticism, with its emphasis on unique philosophical and spiritual principles, offers a distinct and different approach to beliefs about God, religion, and the afterlife compared to the Abrahamic religions. In this chapter, we will explore Hermetic beliefs in these areas and examine how this tradition approaches fundamental theological and eschatological concepts. In Hermeticism, rather than focusing on the existence of a specific God or particular afterlife notions, the emphasis is more on philosophical and spiritual principles. This tradition pays special attention to the concept of universal unity and the divine principle as a foundational concept. Hermeticism holds that all beings and elements of the world are deeply interconnected, with these connections operating on a cosmic and spiritual level. This perspective on unity is particularly evident in Hermetic teachings and related philosophical texts. Unity and the divine principle. In Hermeticism, the divine principle is considered as a fundamental and pervasive force that indirectly influences all aspects of the world. This divine principle, generally referred to as the primordial source, or first principle, is viewed as a force of unity that links everything together. This perspective is particularly emphasized in Hermetic texts and the philosophies associated with Hermeticism. Perspective on God and the afterlife. While in Abrahamic religions such as Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, God is viewed as a personal being with specific attributes, and the afterlife is presented as a stage of existence after death, Hermeticism approaches these issues differently. Instead of focusing on the existence of a specific deity, Hermeticism is more concerned with reflection and analysis of cosmic and spiritual principles. This tradition particularly emphasizes the analysis of universal connections and the fundamental principles that shape the world. Regarding the afterlife, Hermeticism does not have a specific view of life after death and instead focuses more on the processes of change and transformation in this world. Concepts such as reincarnation and cosmic changes, which are referenced in some Hermetic texts, mainly pertain to the analysis of natural and spiritual cycles in this world, with less focus on specific notions of the afterlife. Differences from Abrahamic religions. The fundamental differences between Hermeticism and the Abrahamic religions in theology and eschatology are clearly observable. In Abrahamic religions, God is viewed as a personal being with specific attributes, and the afterlife is presented as a stage of existence after death. In contrast, Hermeticism, instead of focusing on the existence of God or the afterlife, emphasizes more on philosophical and spiritual principles, analyzing cosmic concepts and universal changes. These fundamental differences, especially in how Hermeticism deals with theological and eschatological concepts, help us gain a deeper understanding of the position of this tradition among other philosophical and religious systems. Analyzing these differences, particularly in the areas of theology and spirituality, aids in understanding the role of Hermeticism in shaping new philosophical and spiritual thoughts, and in delving deeper into this ancient and complex tradition. Chapter 6. Comparison with Abrahamic religions. Hermeticism, with its emphasis on unique philosophical and spiritual principles, has significant and deep differences when compared to Abrahamic religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. To understand these differences, it is necessary to explore the core concepts of these religions and how Hermeticism views these concepts. In the Abrahamic religions, God is considered a personal being with specific attributes. This God, who is introduced as the creator of the world and an observer of human actions, possesses qualities such as mercy, justice, and omnipotence. In these systems, God is the central focus of worship, and the teachings of these religions directly relate to God and His attributes. In contrast, Hermeticism emphasizes the first principle, or divine principle, which is seen as a force of unity and oneness. This principle indirectly influences all aspects of the world and is presented as a pervasive cosmic force. In Hermeticism, there is no focus on God as a personal being, and instead, more attention is given to the analysis and contemplation of cosmic and spiritual principles. In Abrahamic religions, the concept of the afterlife is presented as a stage of life after death. These concepts include heaven and hell as the consequences of one's actions in the worldly life, and they are particularly emphasized in the sacred texts of these religions. In Hermeticism, unlike this perspective, more attention is given to the analysis of natural and spiritual cycles. Concepts like reincarnation and cosmic changes are presented as natural and spiritual processes, and Hermeticism, instead of focusing on life after death, is more concerned with changes and transformations in this world. Regarding religious laws and moral principles, Abrahamic religions typically have a set of defined rules and principles that serve as a guide for human behavior and actions. These laws, found in the sacred texts of these religions, include moral principles, social behavior, and ritual practices that followers must observe. In Hermeticism, rather than offering specific religious laws, more emphasis is placed on philosophical and spiritual principles. Hermetic teachings delve into a deeper understanding of the world and cosmic connections, serving as a guide for philosophical reflection. Ultimately, the differences between Hermeticism and the Abrahamic religions in theology, eschatology, and moral principles highlight the diversity and complexity of various belief systems. Hermeticism, with its focus on unique philosophical and spiritual principles, instead of concentrating on specific notions of God and the afterlife, emphasizes the analysis of cosmic concepts and universal changes. These differences help us better understand the place of Hermeticism among other belief systems and to explore this ancient tradition more deeply. Chapter 7: Inspiration and the Founder. The Hermetic tradition, with its profound philosophical depth and spiritual intricacies, draws heavily from Greek and Egyptian philosophies. Recognized as one of the most significant ancient philosophical and spiritual systems, Hermeticism was especially influenced by the cultural and philosophical teachings of antiquity. To better understand this tradition, we must explore its sources of inspiration and the role of its legendary founder, Hermes Trismegistus. Inspiration from Greek and Egyptian philosophies. The Hermetic tradition is particularly influenced by Greek and Egyptian philosophies. During the Hellenistic period, which witnessed the blending of various cultures and philosophies, the teachings of Hermeticism were deeply affected by Greek philosophical concepts. Ideas such as idealism and cosmic theories played a significant role in the analysis and interpretation of Hermetic principles. In addition to Greek philosophy, Hermeticism was also profoundly influenced by the philosophies and religious teachings of ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, concepts such as reincarnation and cosmic principles were deeply explored, and their influence is clearly visible in Hermetic teachings. The interactions and mutual influences between Greek and Egyptian philosophies, especially during the Hellenistic period, led to the formation and evolution of Hermetic principles. Hermes Trismegistus, the legendary founder. Hermes Trismegistus, known as the legendary founder of Hermeticism, plays a key role in the formation and development of this tradition. Hermes Trismegistus, also referred to by names such as Thrice Great Hermes, is traditionally depicted as an ancient religious and philosophical figure who extensively interpreted and analyzed Hermetic principles. Various texts are attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, including the Hermetic Corpus and other philosophical writings associated with this tradition. These texts, considered the primary sources of Hermeticism, focus on the analysis and examination of the philosophical and spiritual principles of Hermeticism and serve as the foundation for the tradition's thought. While Hermes Trismegistus is recognized as a mythical figure, His teachings and influence are widely referenced in various philosophical and spiritual texts. These writings, primarily composed in antiquity, delve into the cosmic and philosophical principles of Hermeticism and serve as the basis for the tradition's thought. The inspiration of the Hermetic tradition from Greek and Egyptian philosophies, particularly in ancient times, played a crucial role in shaping and developing this tradition. Hermes Trismegistus, as the legendary founder of Hermeticism, contributed to the interpretation of cosmic and philosophical principles with his philosophical and spiritual teachings. Exploring these influences and the role of Hermes Trismegistus as the founder helps us gain a deeper understanding of the philosophy and principles of Hermeticism and analyze the complexities of this ancient tradition. Chapter 8: Rituals and Practices. Rituals and practices in Hermeticism form an essential part of the spiritual and philosophical life of its followers. These rituals, primarily involving meditation, spiritual exercises, and the study of sacred texts, serve as tools to deepen the understanding of Hermetic principles and strengthen the connection with the cosmic and spiritual realms. Hermetic rituals are typically conducted in small groups, aiming to create a serene and spiritual environment for practice and reflection. These settings, usually peaceful and filled with positive energy, assist followers of this tradition in engaging deeply with Hermetic principles. In these spaces, followers collectively engage in spiritual exercises and study sacred texts, drawing from shared experiences to enhance their understanding of the philosophical foundations of Hermeticism. Meditations and spiritual exercises. One of the significant components of Hermetic rituals is meditation and spiritual exercises. These meditations serve as tools for achieving inner peace and gaining a deeper understanding of the cosmic and philosophical principles of Hermeticism. Followers of Hermeticism typically use these meditations to reflect on the fundamental principles of the tradition and analyze cosmic connections. These exercises may include techniques such as mental focus, deep breathing, and contemplation of sacred texts. Spiritual exercises in Hermeticism are also recognized as tools to strengthen the connection with cosmic and spiritual principles. These exercises primarily involve activities that help followers directly connect with spiritual and cosmic energies. Such activities may include prayers, invocations, and specific practices directly related to Hermetic principles. Study of sacred texts. The study of sacred texts is another crucial part of Hermetic rituals and practices. These texts, usually comprising Hermetic writings and other philosophical works related to this tradition, are regarded as the main sources of philosophical analysis in Hermeticism. Followers regularly engage in the study of these texts, using them to enhance their understanding of Hermetic principles and delve deeper into cosmic concepts. This study helps followers familiarize themselves directly with the teachings of Hermeticism, using these teachings to guide their spiritual thoughts and activities. The study typically involves examining and analyzing various texts, reflecting on philosophical and spiritual principles, and using these teachings to strengthen both individual and collective understanding of Hermetic principles. Spiritual spaces and small groups. Hermetic rituals are usually conducted in peaceful and spiritual settings, often consisting of natural environments filled with positive energy. These spaces help followers of this tradition engage more deeply in contemplation and reflection, establishing a stronger connection with cosmic principles. Small groups, typically gathering in these spaces, serve as forums for sharing experiences and enhancing a collective understanding of Hermetic principles. These groups, focusing on the enhancement of philosophical and spiritual understanding, assist followers in familiarizing themselves more deeply with Hermetic principles and using shared experiences to strengthen their spiritual and philosophical connections. These spaces and groups, serving as central points for spiritual and philosophical activities in Hermeticism, play a significant role in the lives of the tradition's followers. Rituals and practices in Hermeticism act as tools for strengthening the connection with cosmic and spiritual principles and enhancing philosophical understanding in this tradition. These activities, emphasizing meditation, spiritual exercises, and the study of sacred texts, help followers deepen their acquaintance with Hermetic teachings and establish a stronger connection with the cosmic world. Chapter 9. Geography and Followers. The Hermetic tradition, with its complex and influential history, has attracted followers across different eras and geographic regions. Recognized as one of the ancient philosophical and spiritual systems, Hermeticism has significantly impacted and garnered many followers, particularly in Europe and America, throughout history. In ancient times, Hermeticism was especially influential in Mediterranean regions and among Greek and Roman societies. With its profound philosophical and spiritual influence, this tradition became widely known and was of great interest to philosophers and thinkers in these areas. During this period, Hermeticism was studied and examined as an important philosophical and spiritual system in universities and scholarly and philosophical centers. As time passed, Hermeticism experienced a resurgence during the European Renaissance, where its influence was evident in the philosophical and scientific communities of the time. European philosophers and thinkers extensively studied and analyzed Hermetic principles, and the tradition became recognized as an essential philosophical and spiritual movement. These influences are clearly observable in the literary and philosophical works of that era. In the modern world, the Hermetic tradition continues to have followers in various countries and remains active in philosophical and spiritual communities. In Europe and America, this tradition has been part of philosophical and spiritual movements, with its followers actively engaged in different philosophical and spiritual fields. These followers, focusing on Hermetic principles and contemplating cosmic and philosophical concepts, actively participate in various communities and continue to exert their influence in these societies. Ultimately, the geography of Hermetic followers, considering the broad and influential history of this tradition, reflects its diversity and spread across different regions of the world. From ancient times to the modern era, Hermeticism has attracted followers in various countries and has continued to impact philosophical and spiritual communities profoundly. These influences, with an emphasis on the philosophical and spiritual principles of Hermeticism, are considered part of the global philosophical and spiritual movements. Final conclusion. The Hermetic tradition, deeply rooted in ancient Greek and Egyptian philosophies and founded by the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, has been recognized throughout history as a unique philosophical and spiritual system. Emphasizing cosmic, spiritual, and philosophical principles, Hermeticism explores the relationship between humanity, the universe, and spiritual forces, striving for a deeper understanding of truth and the ultimate purpose of life. Throughout history, Hermeticism has been influenced by various philosophies and religious currents and became particularly prominent during the Renaissance and in the modern era as an essential philosophical and spiritual movement. Followers of this tradition, active in various countries and philosophical and spiritual communities, continually study and analyze Hermetic principles to enhance their individual and collective understanding. Hermeticism, with its emphasis on meditation, spiritual exercises, and the study of sacred texts, offers its followers tools for achieving inner peace and a deeper understanding of cosmic and philosophical principles. These activities, usually conducted in spiritual spaces and small groups, serve as central points for strengthening the spiritual and philosophical connection with the universe. Given the extensive and influential history of this tradition, from ancient times to the modern world, Hermeticism demonstrates its diversity and expansion across different regions of the world. With its focus on unique philosophical and spiritual principles, Hermeticism continues to evolve and expand as part of the global philosophical and spiritual movements. Ultimately, Hermeticism, as a profound philosophical and spiritual system, aids in achieving a deeper understanding of the world and humanity, and continues to exert its influence in philosophical and spiritual communities.